Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Agoura Hills City Council meeting. Please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. If you wish to speak or submit a written comment, please complete a comment card for each item and submit to the City Clerk prior to the public comment portion of the item. I will now call this meeting to order. I'm going to read our land acknowledgement. The City of Agoura Hills acknowledges that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Chumash Nation. Descendants of Chumash still remain, and we honor and pay our respects to their elders and various groups that make up the past, present, and emerging as they continue their stewardship of our lands and waters. We have a responsibility and commitment to elevate the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of the city of Agoura Hills. And we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. I will now defer to Cub Scout Pack 227 for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, will the audience please rise? Color Guard, advance. Hand salute. Those not in uniform, please put your right hand over your heart. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, salute. Two, Color Guard dismissed. The audience may be seated.
Thank you very much, Cub Scout Pack 227. I will now defer to the City Clerk for the roll call.
Thank you. Good evening. Councilmember Anderson. Councilmember Anstead.
Here.
Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolf.
Present.
Mayor Sylvester.
Here.
Mayor Sylvester, you have a quorum.
Thank you. There was no closed session held today, so there's no report. And we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Will the maker of the motion and the second to approve the agenda as amended state your names?
This is City Councilman Chris Anstead. I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Mayor Pro Tem Wolf, I'll second.
Thank you. I'll defer to City Clerk for the roll call vote.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Anstead.
Aye.
Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolf.
Aye.
Mayor Sylvester.
Aye.
Mayor Sylvester, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you. We have no presentations this evening, so we'll move directly to Intergovernmental Special Purpose Committee and departmental reports. And we'll start with the Las Verdes Municipal Water District Engineering Program Manager, Oliver Schlosser. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm here to share with you the Pure Water Project Las Verdes Triunfo, an update of our project. Tonight I'll just be going over kind of where we're at with the project and talk a little bit about our oak tree and rare plant mitigation plans, which are one of the first activities. Talk a little bit about why we're doing Pure Water, an overview of the project just as a reminder, what our current schedule is, and then finishing off with the oak tree and rare plant mitigation. So why Pure Water? Pure Water was undertaken by the Las Verdes Triunfo JPA back in 2016. It was a project that was identified to help us meet our regulatory compliance with Malibu Creek, but also as an opportunity to develop our first local supply of water for the region. So the drivers and goals of the project is innovation, local water development, and ecosystem protection. So this project really was a great step by the JPA to not only just meet our regulatory requirements, but really go beyond them and to develop a precious resource in an area that can be, as we all know, affected by drought. We can go to the next one. So quick overview of the project. We go to the next slide. So the project involves taking the recycled water resource that we currently produce at our Tapia Water Reclamation Facility on Malibu Canyon and sending the excess water to a new advanced water purification facility. Currently, though, recycled water produced at Tapia is used in our non-potable purple pipe system. Any excess water, particularly in the wintertime, gets discharged to Malibu Creek. Because of more stringent regulations for what is discharged into Malibu Creek, we would have had to make significant investments in our Tapia Water Reclamation Facility. So this allows us to make those investments, but also regain a very important resource. So the new advanced water purification facility will be capable of treating up to 7.5 million gallons per day of water. That product water is then sent to Las Virgenes Reservoir, our current emergency potable water reservoir, where it mixes with our imported supply and has a regulated detention time within that reservoir. It's then pulled out and treated again at our Westlake filtration plant before being served as potable water. So this is the third project of this sort, the third surface water augmentation project for California behind San Diego and East County. And it utilizes a lot of our existing infrastructure, such as Las Virgenes Reservoir and the Westlake filtration plant. We can go to the next one. So this gives a bit of a geographic description of what we're doing. Tapia is the red dot at the lower right in Malibu Canyon. We'll be utilizing our existing purple pipe system in order to get water up the hill and into our non-potable recycled water distribution system. The excess water will then be sent to the advanced water purification facility located just down the street on Agoura Road, next to the BenPAC facility. The purified water then gets sent along Agoura Road and then down Lindero Canyon to Las Virgenes Reservoir. And then we're also building a reverse osmosis concentrate pipeline to the Calleguas Salinity Management Pipeline by Hill Canyon. So that's about 14 miles of pipeline in order to dispose of the brine that's created from the reverse osmosis process. This is a picture of our site at 30800 Agoura Road. The site we've designed the facility in such a way to reserve a portion on the western side as a buffer for the apartments next door, as well as hopefully to develop a public benefit area in the future. It'll also be an area we'll be doing some of that oak tree mitigation that I was speaking of. So this is just a general layout of the facility a little bit earlier on in our planning stages, but where it's situated in the context of the parcel still remains the same. We can go to the next one. When the JPA purchased this property, I believe back in 2018, the JPA adopted a set of policy principles. I won't read through all of them for you, but it was very important that we preserve the natural beauty of the site, that we were in close coordination with the city and your staff in how we were developing the site, minimizing the footprint of the facility, really wanting to be good stewards of and fit into the beautiful environment along the Lady Face corridor and along Agoura Road. We're right now finishing up, we just finished up the 60% design. I think we've been very successful integrating these policy principles into our design. And then we can go to the next one. I wanted to share with you kind of some of our most recent architectural renderings. This one is actually a bit of an older one and is more conceptual, but I wanted to give you a bird's eye view of the facility. So Agoura Road would be at the bottom of that picture there. That is the advanced water purification facility. We do have some accommodations for possibly utilizing solar on the roof. We've tried to keep any more industrial looking elements like the chemical storage at the back of the building so there's very little visibility from the street. And we've gone through a pretty extensive architectural review process with both Jacobs Engineering, our owner's advisor, and Walsh Construction, who's our progressive design builder. And on the next slide, you can see some of the renderings that we've been working with recently. So This is a view of the entry into the facility from Agoura Road. We've tried to utilize, break up the blocking of the building, incorporate differing materials, overhangs, really try and make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. We actually went through a process as we were developing this architecture where some of our board members and some of our staff went along Agoura Road, took pictures of some of the more architecturally significant buildings in there, and used that as a to help guide our architectural design of this building. We can go to the next one. So this is from the other angle, traveling west, a look at the east side of the building. I will note just a few things about these renderings. The box you see to the left, the white box, that just hasn't been fully designed out yet, but we don't expect it to just remain a white box. There will be fencing and landscaping around that, and we'll also be applying some other materials, but that would be the transformer for the building. And then if we go to the next slide, you'll see it a little better, but through those large windows in front, that's our process area where the reverse osmosis, the microfiltration will be. It's shown in red here just to give a little contrast in the picture, but it will not be red. Eventually, we'll be choosing coatings and colorings appropriate for the facility. You typically see those blue, but again, we just wanted to kind of pop a little bit more in the picture, but those are all items that we'll be working out between 60 and 100% design. We can go to the next one. So this just quickly shows the alignment of the pipelines I spoke of before. This project requires a little over 20 miles of pipeline to be installed. The longest one of those is the green line you see, the reverse osmosis concentrate pipeline. So that'll be going along Agoura Road and then eventually through Westlake Village and the city of Thousand Oaks before meeting the salinity management pipeline in Thousand Oaks. There's also a purified line that's shown in blue. That's the line that brings the purified water to the reservoir. The purple line is the source water line, so that connects our purple pipe system to the facility. That's how we get the raw water to the facility. And then finally, there's a small residuals line that goes east of the facility to meet up with our sewer, and that's for waste that's created at the plant that would then get sent back to our sewer and goes back into the cycle. So there are some impacts along Agoura Road. We've been working again with staff to mitigate those impacts. We also have a shared alignment of a lot of these pipes, so we're not digging up multiple trenches. We're able to, to utilize that shared alignment. I will say that what we're looking at now is the guaranteed maximum price for the concentrate pipeline and the advanced water purification facility. The other three pipelines, the source water, purified water, and residuals line, those are on a bit of a later construction timeline because they're much shorter, but everything kind of wrapping up at the same time. We can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to quickly talk about, we can go to the schedule on the next slide. So as I mentioned, over the last 2 years with Walsh Construction, Carollo Engineers, Brown and Caldwell Engineers, we've been going through what's called phase 1 of our progressive design build. So that gets us from 0 to 60% design. And right now we're negotiating a guaranteed maximum price for phase 2. So phase 2 will be bringing the design to 100% and then building the facility. We foresee groundbreaking to be April of next year for the advanced water purification facility. So yeah, it's coming up pretty close. As well as the pipelines would be on a similar schedule. We're looking at about 2 years of full construction. The overall project is not set to complete until 2030, but there's a lot of time on the back end for testing, for certification, permitting. But we are looking at breaking ground next year and then construction continuing through 2028. We can go to the next slide. So one of our first activities before we properly break ground in April is implementation of our oak tree and rare plant mitigation plan. And we can go to the next slide, but we've been working with California Department of Fish and Wildlife as well as city staff. There are oak trees on the site that unfortunately do need to be removed. We tried to first step was we tried to minimize that to the greatest extent possible. For those trees that we were not able to avoid, we are replacing those at a 4-to-1 ratio. We're looking at replanting over 140 trees. What's really, I think, notable about this is we have a plan in place to relocate all those trees on our parcel, and we're working with city staff to plant the remainder on the city's parcel that's just south of ours. The benefit of that is that when you have all the trees in one area, you're not just getting a 4-to-1 replacement of the trees, but you're really helping to establish it in Oakland habitats. There's a lot of environmental benefits to being able to place them all in one place as opposed to scattering them around the city. We shared the latest plan with the city in June, and that's what we'll be implementing. The reason I wanted to bring this to council's attention is the first removals of oak trees will be happening in the next few months. The reason for that is we want to remove those oak trees during an environmentally appropriate time frame when we don't have bird nesting, bat roosting. So we've had biologists doing surveys as recently as about 2 or 3 weeks ago, ensuring that there's no bats roosting. But we want to be sure that we're removing those trees at the appropriate timeline in order to prepare for our grading activities in the spring and summer. So the first removals will be happening over the next few months. We're limiting those to the AWPF area itself, to our parcel. We are looking at having the first replantings. We're aiming to do that in 2026, late 2026. So right now we're working, we've already contracted our landscape architects to begin the landscaping plans for those replantings. It includes providing irrigation if it's needed. I believe we have 5 years where we ensure that those those trees are being established and that they're healthy. So it's not just planting and walking away. We make sure that they're going to survive as well. The city staff has been really great working with us as far as finding an appropriate size tree for different areas, especially areas on the city's parcel can be quite steep and have shallow soil, so smaller trees have a better chance of survivability up there. So we're trying to, we've put together a plan that we feel is environmentally appropriate based on the conditions of the site. With that, I'm happy to take any questions from council. We're really excited about this project, and we are looking forward to hopefully building a really beautiful building and a lot of oak trees that the community will get a lot of enjoyment out of. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Do we have any questions? Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of the thoughtfulness that's going into this. It's such an important facility, and we're really honored that it's going to be in our fair city. So, glad to hear that our staff is being a wonderful partner, although it's no surprise. They are wonderful, but, happy to hear you're in such close contact. Just a quick question. You mentioned possible solar on the facility. Is there a reason you wouldn't put solar, or would you put any kind of backup battery? If it's obviously it's in a very high fire hazard severity zone, so it probably would be subject to the power shutoffs that we have, and I would imagine that would be a big problem for you if power, were to be shut off. So what kind of backup, backup facilities or backup processes are you going to have for that kind of facility?
Yeah, we do have some backup power generation on site. It'll basically give us the ability to keep the processes running so that we can do an appropriate shutdown and things just aren't stopped in the middle of a PSPS. It is limited to, because of the energy needs of the facility, we don't have full power backup. It would have required quite a large generator. But we've tried to make it as efficient as possible to keep the key processes power, as well as things like AC for the server room and sensitive areas of the plant. But we will be providing backup power, as does solar. For the moment, we're just making sure that the roof will be solar ready. We don't have any. There's nothing in the initial construction for adding those panels right away. But because of the timeline of the construction, we want to be sure that we're purchasing appropriate panels for the time. As you know, technology improves rapidly, especially with solar. So it will be able to accommodate solar, but we're going to look at that near the tail end of the project.
Okay, yeah, I would just say that we have a climate action and adaptation plan, and certainly this facility is very aligned with our goals of sustainability. So if the backup generation is gas or something that's polluting, I encourage you to move towards solar and backup batteries sooner rather than later, just because it's such a delicate spot, and we'd love to keep that sustainability as part of our, part of our goals of climate adaptation. Just a thought, since
Absolutely.
it's going to be a big facility. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And honestly, I don't have any questions. I just want to express gratitude. I am so grateful that this is coming to the city of Agoura Hills. We are about to be home to the largest wildlife bridge in all of the world. I think all the world, right? Yeah, all the world. Jeremy's thinking maybe. At least all of the country. We are going to, in any event, we're going to be home to a very large wildlife bridge. And I think it's just such a beautiful compliment to have something so forward-thinking and environmentally friendly. And I just echo my fellow council members' encouragement. What I'm hearing you say is the roof is ready for solar. You don't have plans. You're waiting because the technology does evolve, and would love to see solar. What a wonderful icing on the cake that could be.
Absolutely. And we do have our solar farm as well. Solar is a big part of our climate action plan as well. So I know it's a big priority for the district. Yeah.
Speaking of wildlife, Councilmember Anderson, is there some sort of community benefit or wildlife viewing area that you could discuss?
We are working with staff on a public benefit area. It was one of the policy principles that the JPA decided on early on. I didn't have anything to share with you this evening. It is still in process, and it would be something that would come at the tail end of the project as well. The area where the public benefit would likely be is going to be used during construction for staging. So we do have some time, but it's been great working with staff. I think we have some really good concepts, and we want to provide a benefit to the residents of Agoura Hills, and also champion this oak tree mitigation and the environmental benefits that we're bringing with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we're looking forward to the groundbreaking.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation. All right, next we have our Agoura Hills Library quarterly update, and I'll defer to Library Manager Nina Hull.
All right. This is good level? Okay. All right. So good evening, Mayor Sylvester, City Manager Hamburger, City Council members, and city staff. This is the quarterly report, but I'm going to do a little different tonight. And as you all know, we have all those book clubs we have every month. We have a movie for adults once a month, well attended because of the pizza. We have, our trivia and our Sisters in Crime presentations every month, and our music for babies every month. Also, we have a lot more people coming in now because school's back in session. And we have a lot more mothers and dads of very young children heading for that children's area so they can play with those dolls and do their thing with the setting the table, which I love watching. So I'll give you a couple of highlights. In September, we had a book speed dating for adults where the county supplies ARC, which are advanced reader copy books, to give away. So we had 40 books to give away. And this was a fun program. We've never done it before. And so basically they rate the books. They look at the spine label and they say it's posted in front of them. And then that's the first round. They say, I want to be number one to get that one. Then they have another round where they can actually look at the back of the book. And then they might change their rating and do it that way. And then the third round is they actually get to pick the book up and then use their phone if they want to look it up. And in the end, each person left with 2 books, and they were all very satisfied. So we were pleased with that. We'll do it again. Tomorrow night Katie's having her Twilight Trivia contest, or not contest, but that's going to be going on at 6 o'clock. And in children's, I am very pleased to say that our guitar-playing children's librarian, Sarah Hollins, is now drawing up to 25 children and 20 adults to her story times. Those are actually pretty big numbers for us. We haven't had that many in a while. And the feedback is the customers are very happy with the added guitar and music. So that the kids like to go home and they start singing the song. So Sarah has a very nice voice, unlike me, so it goes very well. She also introduced a second program called Trainers League. Trainers League is actually Pokemon competition. It's a Pokemon club, but you can't call it Pokemon because we know why. So basically it's a board game with Pokemon cards. They play during the game. They don't get to take the cards home. So, but they had a really good time. So we're going to do that monthly as well. And the board game and the Pokemon cards is supplied by the Friends of the Library, who are always there for us. As you know, Thank you, Amy. September 15th through October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. We have displays like we always do for these Heritage Months at the front of the library, in the teen area, and then children's. And then this month is Teen Read Month. So all over the county, there's different programs. We're encouraging teens to read of various ways. And like there's an anagram contest at one hospital, at one library. Katie is doing a teen scary short story contest. So we're seeing our teens write scary short stories. This is Banned Book Week. And so we keep our banned book display up for the entire month. It's in the fireplace room, and it always gets comments. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, and by the way, when those kids come in to go play in the children's areas, they walk by the wildlife crossing display. They go say hi to the lion. Then they head to the back. We now have an Instagram page, so Katie also is in charge of that. And so what she's done is, because of the day, October 3rd, of the infamous Taylor Swift album, so on that day, she had a countdown of 13 literary references that Taylor has done through the years. Little did I know that her songs had, like, hear a song that she writes about Cassandra, and it will parallel what that character is in literature. She's doing a literary thing. So Katie made a contest so they could see if they could figure out, who it is. So next month, because it will be Native American Heritage Month, we are having a Native American pottery class in honor, and that will be on October 25th. And of course, we'll change the displays. So with that, do you have any questions?
No, but we'd like to thank you so much. We're so lucky to have you as our librarian and all the wonderful programs that you do. So
I
thank
do
you,
have
Nina.
one question, if you
Yes, go
don't mind,
ahead.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'm just curious, with the banned books week, you say you get a lot of comments.
People are always surprised.
Are they happy? Are they upset? Do you get both?
No, no,
Okay.
it's just like they'll see something like a common book that they've always not. Everybody knows about Huckleberry Finn and Mark Twain or Huckleberry Finn, but they'll see a book that they had no idea was a banned book.
Oh, I
And
see.
then-
So it's mostly surprise. It's not a commentary on whether
Right.
to be putting the books out or
Right.
not or anything like that.
It's like she does the same one every year. She covers the big display case in the fireplace room,
Okay.
and then when they peek through the holes, they'll look at a particular book. And people always come back and say, because there's a lot of books that have been banned, as we all know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of choice in doing that type thing. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. Yes. Round of applause. All right, we now have our Clean Power Alliance update. I'll defer to Councilmember Klein Lopez.
Well, thank you. We normally have our board meetings for Clean Power Alliance on the first Thursdays of the month, but because of high holidays and a few other things, we actually haven't had our board meeting for the month yet. But I do want to report that we had our annual board retreat, which is amazing. So as you know, we are 38 cities now. So it's 38 board members, and it's incorporated cities in LA and Ventura County, and also representatives from the unincorporated areas in those two counties. So we're a very big board, and we always have a lot of business to do at our board meetings. So our annual retreat is really an opportunity for us to go to the 30,000-foot level and talk about the goals that we have over the next 5 to 10 years. So one of the things we talked about is how quickly we move to 100% GHG-free clean energy. This is why I asked Oliver. It's part of my world. The mandates for the state is to be at 60% renewable energy by 2030. We're already in the 70%. So we're way above our mandates, but we're actually getting closer and closer to 100%. And so we were talking about the goal of when to get there. And we may get there as early as 2035, which is a good 10 years before schedule, which is amazing. We also talked about having direct ownership of assets. And as you know, places like Agoura Hills, we have agreements with Clean Power Alliance for our Power Ready program that provides solar panels and backup batteries. That's usually contractual, and we contract it out, and We're just thinking about some of the benefits of actually owning those assets directly, and not only just these solar and backup batteries, but even long-term, possibly transmission lines. And I'm not talking about the transmission lines that go directly to our houses, but it's a few layers back. And the reason is because right now these are for-profit companies that own and operate these lines, and so there's a profit margin laid onto that's going back to ratepayers. And if we are able to, as a municipal utility, own and operate those, we obviously have favorable financing opportunities as municipal agencies, but also we're not-for-profit. So we're thinking that if we are able to own and operate some of the transmission lines, that would result in direct savings to our customers. So these are all long-term, big 30,000-foot possibilities that we're looking into, but it was a very robust conversation, and more than anything, it was just great to see people from all over Los Angeles and Ventura counties who we only see once a year because we meet on Zoom in like 5 or 6 different locations across the area. So it was a great gathering, and really honored to be chair of the board and to be able to kick it off. And that's my report.
Thank you so much. Any other? Then we'll defer to staff. Do we have some reports? No reports from staff? No? Are there any reports? Councilmember Wolf.
Would this be a good time to do an outside meeting I attended? Late in September, I attended it was called Strengthening Coordination with Gateway Communities. That was put on by the U.S. Department of Interior and hosted by the Deputy Secretary of the Interior. And it was focused on strengthening relationships with gateway communities to national parks. And in our national park, our superintendent, they do a lot of work to make sure that we're in the know. I'm not sure that has occurred in other national parks throughout the nation, so I think that they were trying to improve that. But it was really interesting to hear from other national parks, and I'm really thrilled with our partners here at Santa Monica Mountains. That's my outside meeting report.
Thank you. Any other reports? I just would like to give the council an update. As you know, I've been monitoring the Zone 0 border forestry regulations, and today the Los Angeles City Council voted unanimously to oppose the current draft of the Zone 0 regulations. I was really happy to hear that, because as our own stance is the same, is that we feel complete removal of all vegetation is too extreme for our area and would devastate our neighborhoods. So I'm hoping that with this, they're supposed to be, I think it's October 13th, they're going to issue the next draft, and I'm hoping we'll see some movement towards allowing local control of what stays and what has to go. So keep your fingers crossed. All right. Now we're moving on to public comments. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda that are under the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. If you have something to distribute to the City Council, please do not approach the dais. Hand your item to the City Clerk and she will distribute it to us on your behalf. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. Persons addressing the City Council shall not engage in disorderly conduct that disrupts or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. I will now defer to the City Clerk.
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence. We do have speakers this evening. The first is David Glucksman, followed by Peter Feller.
Welcome. You will have 3 minutes to speak, ending when the red light appears on the podium. Please adjust the microphone and you may begin.
Well, thank you for letting me talk. I just actually now have 2 iguys. One, thank goodness I got Nathan's information, so I'd like to have a conversation with you about how the area where I live at, which is Troutdale and Canaan, that we possibly have a way or segue to get everybody involved so they could become part of this organization, because I don't think we have anything up there. And one of the biggest problems that I'm looking at is how terrible Agoura is looking. And when I say terrible, I'm looking at the roads. Canaan Road is a pothole. It is terrible to drive on. It's just one hole being fixed on top of another hole, and it's terrible. And now they've gone through and they've dug trenches, they've put in pipelines, which I'm assuming is for the electrical lines to be dropped, and was wondering, when are we going to know what's going to go on with it? Because where I live up in the hills, we're constantly having our power shut off for one reason or another. And what Deborah said about having backups, some of us do have with solar backups. Other ones of us has gone through generators. There's Generacs all over the place up there because we know what it's like to lose power. And I was just wondering, how could we find out what is going on with road maintenance, which Diego told me that apparently last month that you did have a speaker relating to this. I didn't know, I never attended any of these meetings, but now I sold my accounting practice. I'm no longer associated with the Calabasas Chamber, which I was for many years as their treasurer. But I'd like to try to find out, how could we get more information as people in Agoura, but we're not considered Agoura Hills? That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're aware, but we're not allowed to make any comments back to you.
Oh, I understand that.
But
I wouldn't expect
hopefully
it.
staff will
Thank you.
coordinate with you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Feller, followed by Norman Buring.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members and staff. As you know, my name is Peter Feller and I'm President of the Agoura Hills Fire Safe Council. This is a quick update of our home hardening program. Firstly, I want to thank City Council and staff for their vision, leadership, and trust in partnering with the Agoura Hills Fire Safe Council to create a free vent mesh program as part of our home hardening program. We launched the free vent mesh program on September 2nd, only 5 weeks ago, and have only had 3 pickup dates. The logistics of education, counting and measuring the residents' vents, and creating an ordering system were a big challenge. But for the most part, we've worked out all the kinks, and the program, I'm happy to report, is a huge success. To date, we have had 86 orders, and more than half of those have already been delivered to the residents. To put this into perspective, the program's funding, we estimate, will only accommodate approximately 400 residents. So we're already at 22% in 5 weeks. I've received dozens of thank you notes with the orders, and even more thank yous when the residents pick up their free mesh here in the city parking lot. Together, we're doing great work, and it's very much appreciated by the residents. We're making Agoura Hills safer for our residents. I look forward to working with the city when the official CWRA is complete and we move into the CWPP, for which the Agoura Hills Fire Safe Council secured that money through the Santa Monica Mountain Regional Fire Safe Council. I look forward to us extending what we've already done and making Agoura Hills a safer place to live. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Norman Buring, and he has a handout that I'll pass on to you.
Mayor Sylvester, members of the council, Mr. Hamburger. My name is Norm Buring. I live at 27301 Provident Road in Agoura Hills. I'm here to introduce myself to you. I'm the new homeowners president for the Liberty Canyon Homeowners Association. I've lived in Agoura Hills for about 7 years. Before that, I lived just across the freeway in Saratoga Hills below the landfill there. I lived there for over 40 years, was on the Homeowners Association for most of those years, and probably president for 25 of those years. So in terms of the Malibu Canyon area, I've been pretty familiar with all land use and landfill issues since 1978. In terms of my career life, I'm a water resource engineer, and I spent the last 6 years of my employment at the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. I was in charge of public outreach, environmental studies, and water conservation, among a few other things. So now I'm the new president of this association, so what am I going to do? Well, the first thing I found out is we have less than 50 emails for a community of 330 people. So job one is we need to talk to those people, and we need to convince them that we're a reliable source of information. So today, we are passing out a hard copy newsletter. 11 volunteers are running all around our neighborhood dropping these on porches. And so there's articles in here about our history, which, did you know our history includes Buddy Ebsen from the Beverly Hillbillies? How about Marlon Brando? He's in there too. He's part of our history. We talk about Zone Zero and your testimony in Pasadena. We talk about the wildlife crossing and all those. There's also a little parcel that's just above our community, above Agoura Hills, that's for sale. And we think it needs to come up on our radar screen, so we have included that also. So our view is, oh, and then the final thing, main reason we put it out is we ask for their emails, that they're only going to get this one and one in the spring, and then after that, we're just going to have to go all electronic. So if we get emails, then we can communicate with them, convince them that we are a trusted source, and then that becomes good for us, and I think it becomes great because people will engage. Once they're educated and they understand, step 3 is engaged, and that's what we're working for on this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work too. We look forward to communicating with you. All right. We're now moving on to the consent calendar. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items on the consent calendar. I will now defer to the city clerk.
We have not received any written correspondence, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the City Council on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll now call for a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent calendar. Deborah Klein-Lopez.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolf, I will second.
Thank you. I'll defer to the city clerk for the roll call vote.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Klein-Lopez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Sylvester, you have approval, 5-0.
Thank you. We're now at item number 6, discussion action. Our next item is a discussion to consider approval of the 2025 update of the City of Agoura Hills Arterial Streetscape Master Plan. I'll now defer to the Director of Public Works, City Engineer Charmaine Yambal, for the staff presentation.
Before I begin, we have an attachment A that we'll hand out just kind of as a guide for you to reference as we go through the presentation. Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor Sylvester and honorable council members. Tonight, I'm pleased to present the 2025 update of the City of Agoura Hills Arterial Streetscape Master Plan. We also have Brian Broderson, the city's landscape architect, joining us here tonight to help answer any questions we may have on any of the new plants selected or any of the proposed plant palette. Mr. Broderson has been the city's consultant since 2017, which coincidentally is when we started using the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan for renovation of our landscape on public roads. Sorry about that. Our agenda for the presentation tonight, first I'd like to provide background of the city's Arterial Streetscape Master Plan, then present lessons learned from using the 2017 Arterial Streetscape Master Plan. We'd like to then revisit the City Council goal of enhancing landscaping of the Canaan Road medians, and then next present the proposed revisions to the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan, then provide a presentation of the feedback we received from the Public Works Subcommittee, and then finally present the 2025 Arterial Streetscape Master Plan. And we'll close with recommendations and questions.
The 2017 Arterial Streetscape Master Plan was a thoughtfully developed guidance document with over a year of meetings and feedback from both Public Works Subcommittee and then City Council. The Arterial Streetscape Master Plan was approved on September 27, 2017, providing a predetermined vision established by the City Council for landscaping of the city's 5 major arterial roadways, which are Agoura Road, Canaan Road, Liberty Canyon, Reyes Adobe, and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. And as capital improvement and land developments projects were completed in proximity to these arterial roadways, the document was intended to be a guideline for design and installation of landscaping on these roadways. On this slide, there are listed the following objectives that shape the plant palette for the 2017 Arterial Streetscape Master Plan. Starting with the selection of plants were to be predominantly native. The use of drought-tolerant plants were to provide color enhancement where needed. Oak trees were desired along all the arterials, and ground cover was preferred with no turf, installation of drip irrigation, and construction of cobbled rock noses at the end of the medians, similar to those that were first constructed for the Agoura Road medians. And the selection of street trees were further determined with the following criteria in mind: consideration of the tree's propensity to lift surrounding infrastructure over time, consideration of the tree's maintenance demand, preference of native over non-native, and consideration of the tree's aesthetic value, and consideration of the tree's consistency with the surrounding areas. Since 2017, the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan has been utilized as a guideline document for renovation of the city's landscape medians. As some of the selected native plants failed to thrive, other plants were added, such as lantana, which is a low-maintenance plant, in areas of both Agoura Road and Canaan Road medians to accent the existing native plantings. Lessons have been learned along the way. While the city continued to replace plants in the medians consistent with the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan, what staff observed and experienced was that some of the native plants perpetually failed to thrive, not being compatible with the existing roadway conditions, while other plants were not conducive to typical landscape maintenance practice. Just recently, the City Council included the enhancement of median landscaping on Canaan Road between Thousand Oaks Boulevard and North City limits. The implementation of this goal was included as part of the city's operation and maintenance budget for landscaping over the next 3 years. To accomplish this goal, the first step is to complete the update of the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan, which involved revising and amending the landscape plant palette to allow more planting options based on our experience and observations from the Agoura Road and Canaan Road medians, while maintaining the original objective of the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan, which was to provide a plant palette that is predominantly native. In developing the revisions to the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan with the city's landscape architect, the first objective, as I've already mentioned, was to maintain the original objective, to provide a predominantly native plant palette. And from the lessons we've learned, the proposed revisions include: 1, removal of plants not performing well from the 2017 list, to continue the goal of selecting and planting native and adaptive plants, adding a new plant category of accent plants for pops of color, adjust the varieties and add new proven plants that have been tested in the field, and select plants for low maintenance, and to change the design of the planting to informal planting arrangements rather than the block planting. Staff presented the updated and revised Arterial Streetscape Master Plan to the Public Works Subcommittee. The first draft was presented to the committee on June 2nd, and the final draft on August 27th of this year. The Public Works Subcommittee provided thoughtful feedback on additional revisions and plants for the Arterial Streetscape Master Plan, which included the following: additional removal of non-native trees and shrub accent plants, addition of native and adapted trees and accent plants, limited use of lantana as an accent plant, phased approach for removal and replacement of trees, and to provide clear language in the document to be used as guidelines for landscape improvements in the public right-of-way. And now I'm here to present the 2025 update of the city's arterial streetscape master plan. First up is Agoura Road, which in a way has been a prototype for primarily native landscape in the public roadway, and that's been since like 2016 when it was constructed. Shown here are the new selected plants added to the list for Agoura Road. There's one new tree that was added to the list for the medians, and that's the desert willow, a native tree. It's shown on the upper left-hand corner of this slide. There were also 4 new shrubs added: the manzanita, the pine mully, white sage, and hummingbird sage. They're all native plants, and they've been added to the list of shrubs. There are also 2 new accent plants, one being lantana, which, as you know, is already currently used on Agoura Road and has worked very well, and the blue fescue, which is a native plant, and those were added. There were 2 native plants that were removed from the shrub list, but have been replaced by the 4 native plants that are shown on this slide. And the attachment that I passed out, it does kind of give you the list of those plants that were removed if you care for the names. This slide provides you an overall picture of the new plant palette for Agoura Road. It shows a colorful tapestry of a predominantly native landscape palette. On the top row, you have the list of trees. On the bottom are the shrubs, and on the very bottom row, the middle row is the shrubs, and the bottom is the accent plants. Next up is Canaan Road. There were 3 new plants added: the California lilac, pink mully grass, and creeping sage, all on the top of this slide. They're all native plants, and they've been added to the shrub list. There is 1 new accent plant, and that's the native yarrow on the bottom of this slide, which, as you also know, currently exists but on adjacent commercial sites on Canaan Road. There were 2 trees that were removed from the list of trees for the medians. One was native and one was non-native. The list of median trees were kept simple, with the oaks as the primary highlight. There were 4 plants that were removed from the shrub list, and they were removed because they were maintenance intensive. This slide shows the Canaan Road plant palette. Again, the trees are up on the top row. The middle row shows the shrub list, and the bottom are the accent plants. Next up is Liberty Canyon. There were 2 new plants that were added to the shrub list. One is the native manzanita, and 1 non-native pine mully. Both of those are shown on the top of this slide. And please note where I say non-native, when I've called it out, these plants are adapted, even though they're non-native. The 2 new accent plants shown on the bottom of this slide were also added, and it's a new native grass, the autumn moor, and the native yarrow, which is already planted in the medians in Liberty Canyon. There were 3 shrubs removed, 2 were native, and 1 was non-native. And here is the Liberty Road plant palette. Trees again are on the top row, and in the middle are the shrubs, and on the bottom row we have 5 accent plants. This is Reyes Adobe. Reyes Adobe actually has a very robust list, probably the largest of the group. It's due to the different sun exposure conditions out on Reyes Adobe. We've added 1 native tree, the western redbud, to the list of parkway trees. The redbud is not necessarily new to the list, but is new to the list of parkway trees. There are 5 new plants to the shrub list, 3 of which are native, and that's the California lilac, the Eve Case coffeeberry, which is on the far top right, and the California blue sage, which is in the middle of the bottom row. And there were 2 non-native added, the silverberry, the third on the top, and the African boxwood, which is on the bottom left. There was also 1 new plant added to the accent list, and it's a non-native stalked bulbine. There were 2 plants that were removed from the shrub list, and 1 was native and 1 was non-native. This is the plant palette for Reyes adobe. We have the 2 trees that have been selected up on the top. There are lots of shrubs that are available for Reyes adobe, and they take up the middle row as well as the 2 pictures on the bottom row. And then we have the 2 accent plants that make up the 2 on the bottom row, to the right. And the last one is Thousand Oaks Boulevard. We've added 1 new tree to the list for the medians, and that's the native toyon, sitting predominantly at the top of the screen. And we've added 2 new plants to the shrub list. Both are native, and it's the buckwheat and bullgrass. And there's 1 new plant to the accent list, also native, and it's the clustered field sedge. There were 3 plants that were removed from the shrub list, and they were all native as well, but they were very poor performers. This is the plant palette for Thousand Oaks Boulevard. We have the trees again on the top, middle are the shrubs, and then we have the accent plants, the 3 accent plants on the bottom row. Recommendation. Staff respectfully recommends the City Council approve the 2025 update of the City of Agoura Hills Arterial Streetscape Master Plan. And that concludes our presentation. Staff and our consultant are here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to thank the committee for working hard on this, because I know I'm not a gardener, so I admire anybody that knows about it. So, does any council member have any questions?
Should I start? Thank you very much. I love seeing well, I'll save some of my comments for later. I'll just stick to the questions. If you mentioned this, I apologize, just help me, just repeat it for me, please. There were some on here that I noticed were removed from some streets and added to another. So like the Lantana was, I believe, removed from Canaan and added to Agoura Road. And you said they were labor intensive. So is it just, is it sun? Is it traffic? Like why does it thrive in one place and not in the other?
I'll answer part of that question. So Lantana was actually added to Agoura and Canaan to kind of provide some pop of color and to add to some of the areas that the native plants had not survived.
It was removed from Canaan.
But in the the update, it's been removed from Canaan from a suggestion from the Public Works Subcommittee that we wanted to limit the use of Lantana where we could. So we kept it on Agoura and we left it off Canaan. As far as the maintenance, I will defer to Brian Broderson to talk a little bit more about that.
So for clarity, the Lantana was not included on any of the lists, the original master plan. We had a meeting with subcommittee way back in 2017, 2018, because they felt like the planting on Canaan was a little too muted, and they thought that we needed an accent plant there. And that's when it was added, and then we added it on Agoura Road, and it was very successful on Agoura Road. In the most recent review of the plants, we decided with the subcommittee that the yarrow was working really well there and appropriate, and that maybe we should just eliminate the Lantana there. It did not perform as well there. I think there's a difference in soil type, and also there were a bunch of junipers there that were removed as part of the renovation, and so the soil's a little bit different and is adjusted differently.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is, I can combine these two questions. So one of the things that I hear the most of is comments about our landscaping from residents who live along Canaan. They're very opinionated about their medians and landscaping. So I guess my question is, is there any way to seek public input, or do you work with HOAs or to coordinate? You know, I know that HOAs have their own landscaping plans, but just to maintain consistency. I know you mentioned it went through Public Works and it goes through the council, but is there any, this could be opening up a Pandora's box, but you know, what is the public, if they have opinions, what do they do with those opinions? I mean, they tell us, but from your point of view, where can they best express those opinions?
Well, they're always welcome to provide those comments to Public Works, since they're in the public right-of-way. Once we have the arterial streetscape master plan updated, you know, we'll post it on our website, and we can certainly put some kind of PR that it's out there. The next step, if the council decides to approve the presented 2025 arterial streetscape master plan, is to develop those plans for Canaan. And of course, this will go through Public Works Subcommittee. More than happy to also put that out there as a PR, you know, that this is forthcoming, and that we will be presenting to Public Works Subcommittee. So it's not uncommon to have people attend, and I'm always happy to have the public be part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wolf?
To follow up on Councilmember Klein Lopez's question, an example, because you brought it up. So on Thousand Oaks Boulevard, we removed the western rosebud, but on Reyes Adobe, it was added. Will you explain that, just to, because I think that you had that question about removed, and
On Thousand Oaks Boulevard, I have to check my notes on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. We did add the toyon, which is a small native tree, but that was because the crepe myrtle was proposed. The western redbud has always been a favorite. The challenge with the western redbud is that it's typically an understory and a riparian tree. When you put it in the middle of a road and in an environment that gets 100 degrees, it's really out of its normal habitat, and it makes it much more difficult to establish. We added it to raise adobe in the parkways because we were going to get some additional shading from the oak trees, and they were carefully placed, and they've done very well on the eastern exposure, and they've done okay on the western exposure, but there's always a challenge establishing the redbuds. The redbud that was removed from Thousand Oaks that was proposed was the eastern redbud, which is the forest pansy, which has the purple leaves, and that's the plant that was replaced with the toyon.
thank you. That's just a perfect example of removing and adding in one spot. So that's why I wanted to highlight. That was my question.
Thank you. Any other council members with questions? No? Okay. Okay. I will now defer to the city clerk for public comment.
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Thank you so much. So do we have any other questions from council members before we move on to deliberations? So who would like to start with deliberations? Would you like to go first, Councilmember Wolf?
Yeah, I'll start with the deliberation. This was really a labor of love, and a big kudos to Brian and to Woody and Charmaine for this. This is many, many years, and it was really complex because when you think about these plantings, you want it to be beautiful, you want it to achieve so many goals, but it's hard when some is north and south facing, some are east and west facing. There's this urban setting sometimes, and it's hard to, natives can be tricky. So we came into it wanting as many natives as possible, but understood that sometimes that's just not realistic and they don't work everywhere. Different traffic patterns. So we took that into consideration and really adjusted to make it climate appropriate. I want to also thank Councilmember Anderson. We drove around the city. We looked at every single median in the city, and so we're really familiar with this. There's a few things that I do want this council to realize is that this is going to be staggered. This isn't happening tomorrow where all this is being implemented, and that's especially true for the non-native tree removal, because we love our trees in Agoura Hills, and the pines are really easy to remove and have justification, but there's the sweet gum that's all along Canaan. We're going to be taking those out to help release the oak trees. And so and I learned that term, but it's really going to make these oak trees grow big and full, but in doing that, we have to remove trees. And so it's kind of counterintuitive to be removing what looks like healthy looking trees. So we're going to be doing this in a really phased, methodical approach with a lot of public outreach and a lot of communication before it happens on why we're doing it, because we understand the sensitivity behind that. The other thing is that this is, to my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, kind of a living and breathing document, because there's a lot of lessons that we've learned. Woody's become an expert on this because he has to deal with it day in and day out, seeing what works where and what doesn't work. And we have like the noble goals of wanting all the natives, but we have to be realistic because of the soil makeup, temperature, and sun exposure. And so with this, we tried to make the best and incorporate improving biodiversity. The other thing that the point I'll make is fire safety too. We had folks come out and speak on that component, and so these trees are really trying to take that. This plan is taking that into consideration. Biodiversity, and it needs to be beautiful because that's what residents want to see. So we're trying to achieve a lot of things with this, and I think this document gets really close to that, and I think we will achieve it. And this is a plan that we can change, we can edit, we can work on, we can see what works, what doesn't, but it's a roadmap for the future, and we're going to be building off of it. And so that's kind of what I have, and thank you again, Councilmember Anderson and the whole team. And I feel that we're in really good hands. Brian is an expert, and he loves this stuff, and Woody too. And so I feel that a lot of love and care went into this document. So I was thrilled with how this turned out. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will just add my gratitude both to Councilmember Wolf and to the staff, and also to the residents who came out. So we did have public comment on this. We had folks coming to our Public Works Subcommittee and asking really, really good questions. It absolutely is a labor of love. I too am not a gardener, but I want to be after going through all of this. And it really is, it's 12-dimensional chess and a half, because it's soil and it's sun and it's native, and then it's also what can our maintenance crew do. And the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, we are not a wealthy city. We do not have the income that Westlake Village has, that Calabasas has. And so when people drive from Westlake into Agoura Hills or from Calabasas into Agoura Hills, we don't have the same funds available to do our landscaping at the level that they do. And it's still really, really gorgeous. So I think that what we are doing on the budget we have is phenomenal, that we are living into our values of being environmentally friendly. We are living into our values of wanting to be that gateway to the Santa Monica Mountains, to being, some of this is also reflective of what's going to go up on the Wildlife Bridge. It's creative, it's thoughtful, so much time and effort went into this, and I am really proud of what this team has put together.
Well, thank you very much. This discussion harkens me back to the days when Linda Northrup and Elise Buckley Weber were on the council, because we even before I was on the council, we always talked about, well, how do we improve traffic on Canaan? And, can we take out the medians? Can we widen the roads? And, the answer was always 100% no, we are not going to do that, because the beauty and the peace that you feel when you drive down our roads is so, so important. So I'm thinking of them right now. I think they would be very, very happy to see the discussion tonight, and I hope they watch it. But Our medians and our parkways are very, very important to the character of this city. And like I said, it brings us peace when we're driving home. And so the first thing I want to do is thank staff, especially those who are in it day to day, and certainly the subcommittee for all the effort. The other thing I want to say is I love seeing, so I'm a big hiker, and I love seeing the things that I see on the trail here in our palettes. So I see things like manzanita, toyon, all these different kinds of sage. I am no landscaper or gardener either. In fact, I have a black thumb, but when I see the things that are truly native, that are truly what make Agoura Hills and Santa Monica Mountains so unique and special, when I see that on these plans, it makes me very, very happy. And then the last thing I'll say is I'm happy to hear there was public input, because like I said, we hear about it whenever there's a change, particularly like you said, Mayor Pro Tem Wolf, if we are going to be taking out healthy trees, but it's for the benefit of releasing the oaks. That's like a good name for a band or something. But I think we have to have really important and consistent public outreach, because this is like family to people who drive home every day and see the landscaping, and it's home to them. So if we're changing it, it has a real visceral effect on people, and that's why we hear so much about it. So I really do encourage the public input, the information, the education of as we're rolling this out, to keep the residents and businesses up to date, because like I said, it's one of the most important things to people when they're coming to and from their homes and businesses. So with that, I just want to say thank you. Those are my comments, and anxious to hear from my fellow council members, the rest of my fellow council members. Thank you.
Councilmember Anstead.
Sure. I just want to, I think this is fantastic. I want to thank the staff for their expertise and the subcommittee. Appreciate you spending the time kind of going through individually and making sure that it fit in each of the different streets that we designated, and I'm ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just would like to second what all my fellow council members have said. I too have had those calls about why does it look so scruffy and everything's dead. So we can now say that we're removing anything that doesn't survive, and we have a new palette. I'm really looking forward to seeing more color on Canaan with native plants. I think that will be wonderful, and I just appreciate all the hard work that has gone into this. So thank you all very much. So I will now call for a motion and a second to approve the 2025 update of the City of Agoura Hills Arterial Streetscape Master Plan.
Councilmember Anderson so moves.
Mayor Pro Tem, I will second.
Thank you. I will defer to the city clerk for the roll call vote.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Anstead.
Aye.
Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolf.
Aye.
Mayor Sylvester.
Aye.
Mayor Sylvester, you have approval, 5-0.
Thank you. We're now moving on to item number 8. Our next item is a discussion to consider an award of contract to RRM Design Group for the preparation of concept plans, strategies, and a progress update on property owner engagement. I will now defer to Assistant City Manager Ramiro Adeva for the staff presentation.
Thank you so much, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. So we're really excited to be bringing this item to the council today. It's twofold. So we will be having, as you mentioned, the award of a contract for the concept plans and strategies. And we're also going to be giving you an update on all of our discussions as it relates to stakeholder engagement. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the RFP. As you remember, back in August, we received council direction to solicit an RFP for concept plans. On September 24th, we closed the submission period and received 2 proposals, Torti Gaius and Partners and RRM Design Group. Both companies very reputable, both very capable. So it really was a tough decision. We were splitting hairs at the end. When you looked at a comparison, you could see that both were actually proposing to finish the scope of work within the $50,000 that was allotted. And ultimately, it just came down to the fact that RRM has previous experience dealing with the city. They've obviously done the Agoura Village specific plan, and again, did the AVSP update. And also in their proposal, the thing that kind of kicked them over the edge was, or kicked them over the top, was the fact that they really showed projects that had that small town feel. And when I spoke to Tortigallas to kind of give them the news, they also acknowledged that their portfolio didn't really include a lot of projects that were small town feel, and they realized that a lot of their work was really centered in the Inland Empire, but they were just very interested in possibly getting to do some work for our great city. And so, that door is definitely open for maybe some future work, but right now we feel that RRM is the best choice for the city. So if the council is ready to move forward with the award tonight, then we're looking at a contract that is looking for completion in the spring of 2026. Just to go over the scope of work, I'll go through these quickly, but there are 8 primary tasks outlined within the scope. Task number 1 is going to be the project initiation, and this is where you'll get a confirmation of the project goals. There'll be discussion about the protocols and all the deliverables of the project. And then task 2 will be the initial discussions with the city, the consultant, and then we'll be bringing in the property owners. We'll take this opportunity to look and familiarize ourselves with the site. We'll talk about any of the preliminary planning and envisioning for the gathering place experience that we're thinking about. We'll come to an understanding of opportunities and challenges and really discuss the conceptual land use opportunities that exist. Task 3 will be the preparation of the initial conceptual site plan layouts, and task 3 and task 4 pretty much go hand in hand. You'll have creation of image boards during these tasks to facilitate engagement with the different stakeholders, the governing boards, to really help with those discussions that are going to take place in the engagement period. And then we'll go to task 5, where this is obviously communication is always at the forefront of anything that we do. And because of the limited financial resources, obviously, I think we talked about this before, the $50,000 is enough to get a little bit done. And so we've tried to really maximize the combination of the consultant along with our very capable staff. And from a communications standpoint, obviously with Mary Haddad and our communications team, that'll be a collaborative effort to really make sure that we've got a robust public outreach campaign that goes along with this in engaging the community. Task 6 is the land use and zoning review. We're excited about being able to work alongside Robbie Nesevec in the Community Development Department in looking over all of our current zoning, being able to work collaboratively to talk about existing regulatory barriers and opportunities that we can work towards solving together. And those will be incorporated for each of the site plan layouts that gets put together. Task 7 will be the recommendations and the implementation tools, and this was something that was brought up during the subcommittee discussions. Obviously, as we go through this process, the idea of implementation is going to be the big part of this. We don't want a plan that's just going to sit on the shelf. We want to know how to implement it, and so there are various tools that we are going to be looking for the consultant to advise us on. Those can be anywhere between development agreements, zoning code amendments, overlay zones, possible creation of a new specific plan. All of these things are on the table at this point. We're scratching the surface, but that's a discussion that we plan on having with the consultant. And then ultimately, this is going to result in a revised concept and final deliverables that the idea would be we can build on as we plan for the next phase of what this all ends up being when everything is said and done. So that's a task 1 through 8 summary. Okay, so this part is actually really exciting for us. We, during, as we mentioned during our discussions with the council, we had the RFP process happening, and concurrently there was still work that could be done. We've always talked about the fact that there are sort of 2 pieces to this. One piece of the equation that the city has a lot of control over, and other parts of the equation that the city does not have control over. Part of the part that we don't have control over is the fact that we've got these ideas, but they really are dependent upon a private property owner being a willing partner in all of this discussion. And so while we were doing the solicitation process of the RFP, we began to engage property owners just to get temperature readings as far as what their willingness would be in terms of partnering with the city. And so I'm going to go through some of the folks that we were able to have a conversation with right here. So we approached Norman Kravitz. He's a property owner of the 3 buildings directly across the street on Agoura Road. I have an aerial that I'll show in a second that'll help to clarify this. But he's the owner of the property that has the former Rams building, the current V2 building, and also the building that was the former PennyMac site. We also have a discussion that is put onto our calendars later this month where we'll be talking to the Hankey Investment Company. They are the property owners of the site that's directly to the east or to the south of Mr. Kravitz's property, and that is the former Bank of America building, and then the building on the site is also used by their company, so they actually are tenants within one of their buildings. We also went and spoke to Bill Tucker, obviously property owner of the Wisden Marketplace Center. Obviously with some of the discussions that we're having about economic development and ways that we can look at our commercial centers and help to revitalize and or help them out. You can't have those conversations without Bill Tucker, right? And so we also had discussions with Bill. I will say that Bill, we did have discussions, and he did let us know that although he does intend on having discussions at some point in time about what can be or what his visions are for his site, he's, because of some sort of internal conversations that he still has to have with his tenants, he's just not ready at the current time to have sort of very proactive discussions on what can be done at this time, but he kind of reserved the right to, work with our economic development team in the future about when he's ready to do that. So, but we did engage with Bill to kind of make sure that he was aware that we see him and we're available to talk. And then we also reached out to the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce as well as Biocom California. And you might be wondering why we would do this. Obviously with the chamber, that's probably a little bit more intuitive. They are advocates and great promoters of our local business, always great business partners for the city. They actually did come in, as you remember, to the first time that we came to the council and shared some thoughts on the idea of branding this as a downtown versus something else. And so that actually, you'll see when we go further in these slides that did play in part of the way that we're looking at this moving forward. So we do appreciate their comments. We also did receive, for the record, and I think you have this in your packets, we received public comment from Mr. Kravitz, which is the property owner again across the street, and then we also got a letter from the chamber, which I think you have in your packets as well for public comment. And then why Biocom California? Because and you'll see this also as we move forward, but this was an opportunity, I think, as the economic development team started to look at the Agoura Road corridor and find ways to activate it. There's been the sentiment that's been shared, I believe, from the council about looking at ways that we can also tap into that market. Look at the life science space, look at the biotech space, see how that looks like in Agoura Hills. And so we did have a sit down with Biocom, and you'll see in a minute I'll share some of the points of those discussions. All right, so let's get our basis straight here. So that's the 101 freeway at the top of this aerial that's running left to right. In that rectangle, that's City Hall. So just as a point of reference, that's City Hall right there. In that new square that just came up on the screen, those are 3 buildings. And those 3 buildings are owned by Mr. Kravitz. The building to the left, the far left, is the old PennyMac site. That currently is about 100,000 square feet that currently sits completely vacant. The 2 buildings to the right of that site, the one on the top is the V2 site. That one is 100% leased right now and has about a 3-year time frame built into that lease. So from a planning perspective, it does make sense to start having these conversations now if we're talking about a macro level master planning of what this area could be. But that V2 site, which again is that upper right building in that square, is 100% leased right now with 3 years left on the lease. And then the building to the south of that is the former Rams building. And currently there are 2 tenants there. There's Sidcor, which is actually a great sponsor, I guess, partner for the city. Sidcor, but also US Bank is there. 2 valued tenants by Mr. Kravitz. They take up a portion of the building, but if I had to guess, I'd probably say that it's a little bit less than half of the total available space of the building. So you're probably looking at anywhere between 50 and 60% vacancy in that building alone. So that is Mr. Hankey's property. Okay, so now the rectangular square that you see that just popped on the screen, this is the Hankey Investment Company property, which has 2 buildings on it. The building to the right is the former Bank of America building. Again, another 100,000 square feet of vacant space. So it's completely vacant. And then the building to the left is about 30 to 50% occupied by the Hankey Investment Company. So again, you have another building that's sitting about 50% vacant. I do want to make note that one of the things that, and this kind of goes back to what the chamber said when they came and talked to us early on. They had mentioned the discussion about downtown, and we were talking about creating this downtown and branding it as such. And the more we thought about it, the more we had discussions about it, we started to realize that what they were talking about is that we do have a downtown space that we've always called, and that's the AVSP, the Agoura Village Specific Plan, which we've looked at as sort of a master plan downtown area. But when we took a step back, we didn't get so much lost, I would say, in the branding so much with the name, but really looking at activating the corridor. Like, how can you activate these opportunities and really recognize how to repurpose underutilized spaces all up and down Agoura Road. And when we looked at it from that perspective, we really started to see that we could potentially be looking at something special from a planning standpoint. So I'm going to focus really quickly on Norman Kravitz's property. So these are those 3 buildings across the way, PennyMac, V2, and the former Rams building. Mr. Kravitz is, thankfully, we've had, 3 meetings with him, and he has, if there was ever a willing partner, it's Mr. Kravitz. So he is very much on board with having discussions with us about how to look at his property and really find out what we can do with it. In the meetings that we've had, they've been very encouraging. We've talked, obviously, high level, but this is the property that we're going to be focusing the RRM on because, again, we do have this willing partner, and it coincides, I think, with what the council kind of talked about as far as if they had a desirable space to look at, it's right across the street. But there were ideas that were tossed around, like what about, possibly allowing flexibility in the uses to allow another potential hotel. There was talks about, is there room to incorporate a restaurant? Is there room to incorporate a brewery? A lot of different gathering spaces that are going to be discussed as we move into this contract. So alongside that discussion, and part of the partnership that Mr. Kravitz is looking for and why he's so willing to be a willing partner with talking to us about this is from his perspective and what he would like to see is the city discuss some flexibilities in terms of land use that can exist on the PennyMac site. So right now, again, 100,000 square feet of vacancy, and they're having problems in terms of finding tenants to go into that space. And so what they asked at the table was that they would like to see that lot, again, that's the westernmost lot in that square, be zoned in such a way that allows housing and commercial. And where that all goes is, obviously we've got to get into discussions about that, but housing and commercial is something that they say they are ready to act on immediately, and it would make their site much more viable from their perspective. And so what we went back with was, okay, listen, we're going to go ahead and have discussions about this, and when we get with the consultant, we will be talking, obviously, about the whole entire site and the different uses that could happen within the site. And in that process, we can discuss what that means as far as zoning that in to see if it can, what the opportunity is to zone it in such a way that allows them the flexibilities that they would like to see, but also balancing that with what we as a city would like to see as well. That's always the big piece to this puzzle. And so we would work as part of this contract to see how that could all work out. And of course, along the way, be having touch points where we would bring things back and update the committee and the council on that. But as far as Mr. Kravitz's property goes, that's really the discussions that we've had and the 3 times that we've met. It's moving in a direction where it's going to be collaborative and it's going to be a partnership, so we're excited about that. There's definitely some hurdles that we'll have to work through together, and we'll be bringing updates to you as we start to go through those things. So now we're going to move on to the Hankey Investment Company. These are the two buildings that you see now in the rectangle. Again, one of these buildings is 100,000 square feet, completely vacant, and the other one is 50% vacant. This is where the Biocom discussion kind of takes place. And I will leave this out, I will put this out there for the record first. I got to say this caveat that we have not yet confirmed that this is going to be something that they are open to, but we have a discussion with them later this month, and we plan on bringing this up. And why does Biocom come into play here? Is because when we looked at the Mr. Kravitz's site, and we talked about housing, and we talked about potential commercial uses, and you talk about potentially a life science campus, let's say, or UCLA health campus, or a use that like that, where you talk to that space and you realize that what they say their folks are looking for is around their workplace, their families want housing and they want experiences. They want places to go. And so while we're talking about Mr. Kravitz's property, and it just happens to be that we're looking at potentially zones that have housing and commercial, that might be a perfect alignment with what the council has talked about before of creating a space where we could have life sciences come into the mix. And so the ED team has had an initial discussion with Biocom, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with Biocom, they're a company that represents over 1,700 members in the life science space. And they really spoke to us about what it takes to be a life science friendly city. And so they have a lot of amazing information that the ED team's looking through. But really, part of the discussion moving forward, if this becomes a viable option, a realistic option after we talk to them, a part of this will be us looking at, us as a staff, looking at their guidebook on what it truly means to be a life science friendly city, and then working with Robbie and his team in ComDev to then bring items to the council to consider. Because it's one thing, in their words actually, it's one thing for a city to say they want to be life science friendly, but if you truly want to be life science friendly, there are checklists, items to consider. And so that would be up to us to bring to the council so that we could give you options and choices to consider about where we might have regulatory things that we need to address or whatnot. But we're not there yet, but we just put that out there because this could be potentially a location where, if all goes well in our conversations later this month, we probably and hopefully will be coming back to you talking about potentially some life science, biotech space. Okay, so here is what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the same map, but now we're going to try and break it up into the segments of this macro level 50,000 foot view of what everything could potentially be together. So in this rectangle, what you see is the area where if Mr. Kravitz's property is able to do what he would like to see done, then you'll have some commercial use all within this rectangle, right? You have the Rams building, or the old Rams building that is currently occupied by 2 tenants, but you have a willing partner in the property owner that's inquiring about the possibility to have restaurants, breweries, gathering spaces in that building. And then, as mentioned earlier on the PennyMac site, they are looking at potentially on the front side of that property having commercial uses as well. So now what you first start out with is a rectangle that, if you can envision that being commercial space. So that's what that's showing. And then you have the next rectangle that comes up, that's the V2 building. That's potentially where there have been discussions that have been floated around of maybe like a boutique hotel. And so that, and that's actually, that wasn't just a vision of what we brought up at the table, but that was actually initiated by Mr. Kravitz's team. And so, but you could potentially kind of see something there. But there's a lot to be discussed on that property just because it's still 3 years, a 3-year lease on it. But now you've got commercial, potential hotel. And now in this triangle right here, I won't call it a triangle, it's not really a triangle, but that area that just came up on the board. So now you've got an area where you see the PennyMac building, but just imagine that now is housing. And then you've got 2 buildings to the left. They might be a little bit hard to see. That's where, for those of you familiar with the old days, that's the old City Hall. And then there's another building in there as well. But in that space could be potential housing as well, right? So you have like a hub of housing in that area that just that I'm showing right there on the aerial. So now you've got the housing, you've got potential commercial down below, you've got what potentially could be a hotel, and then you've got life science, biotech, UCLA Health, or something in this campus. And now you've got synergy. You have something that you have complementary land uses that tie in together, where you have the people who you have the life science space saying that, you know, it's our employees value housing. Well, there you go. They value commercial gathering spaces. Well, there you go. And that's what these two arrows show here. If you can, for those of you that know, obviously the commercial center that Grassini's restaurant used to be in, it's a struggling center. I think there are some, you know, successful businesses there, but it is struggling. It's kind of turned into a little bit of a hodgepodge, you know, group of businesses there. But when you look at it from this greater perspective, and you look at some of these uses and what the potential could be, you do have an opportunity where you might be able to revitalize even a center, an existing center like that, if you are able to get the housing and the commercial and the life science. And so that is like the macro big level picture that is kind of talking about this. Obviously, it would activate the corridor in a way that you know, and utilizes a lot of these spaces that are in desperate need of being rethought of and reimagined. And then I'll just add in just a little tidbit too, is that the discussion of Agoura Road was brought into these discussions, and of course none of this would happen without discussions about what that would mean in terms of Agoura Road, because that would also need to play in terms of what Agoura Road would need to turn into in order to really make this a destination spot and make it pedestrian friendly. So that's a high level view there. All right, so on September 29th, we actually took this item to the LUEDC, Mayor Sylvester and Councilmember Klein-Lopez, and I won't speak for them, they can speak for themselves, but I will say, I think it's safe to say that they were encouraged by the progress to date, so I'm sure they'll touch on that when the time comes, but we did talk to the LUEDC about this on September 29th. So next steps. If the council goes forward with the recommendation to approve the contract with RRM, we can begin the scope of work immediately with them. We'll continue to engage with willing partners, and I put an S at the end of that because obviously we have a willing partner in Mr. Kravitz, but the idea would be hopefully maybe the Hankey investment company gets on board and we start to see more partners that are willing to have discussions, but we'll continue to actively engage to seek them out. We also plan on implementing a public outreach strategy and then having touch points with the LUDC and the various governing boards, of course the Planning Commission and the City Council. From a fiscal standpoint, the fiscal year 2025-26 budget does include that $50,000 that I mentioned, so there are no additional impacts to the current fiscal year to cover the work of the concepts plan. And I just wanted to make a note that this does align nicely when we have our mid-cycle discussion for the FY 26-27 because the concept work is looking like has a completion date of spring of 2026, which will put us right in time to be discussing those next steps and then to be deciding upon what that financially will mean going into 26 and 27. And so with that, I'll just summarize the recommendations for the record. We are looking to have the council award a consultant services agreement with RRM Design Group for the preparation of the concept plans and strategies to create gathering place experiences along Agoura Road. We ask that the council authorize the mayor to execute the contract agreement with RRM Design Group, and we would love to discuss, to ask the council to discuss the staff update on these discussions with all these stakeholders and property owners, and provide feedback that we can use. And that, yeah. So anyhow, before we conclude, I have Ms. Amy Brink and Robbie Nesevic here as well, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, and I know we're all very excited at the prospects to come. Before we move on to public comment, does any council member have any questions of staff?
Actually, just one clarifying question. Ramiro, the diagram you showed with the triangle where the housing would go, and you mentioned that one was the old city council building and there was another. Who owns that?
So I believe that is, I don't know the owner offhand, but we do have our system does allow us to look at that. And so I don't have that on me, but we're trying to get a meeting with them too.
Okay, terrific.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank you. We did receive written correspondence from Mr. Norman Kravitz and also from Josh Gray, representing the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce. Those were distributed to the City Council and are part of the record, and we do not have any speakers this evening.
Thank you. Before we move on to deliberations, are there any further questions? No? All right, so now we move on to deliberations, and I'll go first this time, since I'm on the subcommittee. I just want to thank staff for really grabbing this and running with it and coming up with some great ideas. I think the city really needs this, and I'm 100% in favor of everything that you're proposing this evening, so I'm going to let Councilmember Klein-Lopez take over.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you can tell by Mr. Adeva's enthusiasm that this is really exciting stuff. I mean, look at how much emotion you have put into this, because it is so exciting for our town. And when you say that the subcommittee was encouraged, I would go beyond and say we were like practically ecstatic when we heard some of these updates. This is a big lift, and it is one of the council goals that was, I'm so excited about, one of the ones that's so important to me. And I think it's such a win-win, because to have 100,000 square foot buildings sitting empty, with no plan, with no vision, just sitting there, it just serves no one. So I was so moved by Mr. Kravitz's public comment saying what a willing partner, he hopes to be, and really sharing in the vision. And like you said, there's a lot of hurdles, but to have the property owners at least on board, open to the possibility, is kind of the biggest lift, in my opinion. This is a great vision, but nothing's going to happen if we don't have the willing property owners on board. They need certainty, they need the vision, and so we've done. I think you staff has done a great job at really creating this economic development team. We have Mary, Robbie, Amy, Ramiro. I feel like we really have this team now, and so the fact that we're able to offer a high-level vision to these property owners is a huge first step, and you've done a great job of that. I'm really excited about RRM. They know our city so well. They really, I think, understand what our goals are really for decades. So, I was happy to see that they bid on it, and that they that they understood the assignment, or that they will understand the assignment, and very interested in keeping in touch with the other vendor as well, because they sound like they're good people as well. But with that, I just say that this is absolutely the right path forward. It just hits all of our goals in terms of being able to provide more of a community center for Agoura Hills, and I just say if we can stay on this trajectory, we are hitting the goals that we've set out to do. So thank you. With that, I'm ready to proceed with the contract, with the award for the contractor, and again want to thank you all for your work on this.
Thank you. Councilmember Anstead, would you like to go next?
I think, first of all, I'm extremely happy. I'm very excited. I think it's a great plan that you've kind of already got a concept around, and now we're hiring RM to kind of move forward, get some input, also see if it's feasible, give us some recommendations, some recommendations about whether it's actually can happen or not. And I like your idea about, obviously, like the idea about with the biotech. And one of the things you did mention is it's probably 5 properties down, but you have the A2 biotherapeutics already in that area. So you would have 2 biotech businesses in a short distance. And I think all the stuff that you talked about are things that the restaurants and other things like that they would want to be able to walk to or bike to. So I think all that's great. I think it's a great initial plan. We'll see what happens with the design group and how that goes. And I'm excited to kind of have that move forward and then hear what they kind of come up with going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember.
So I share the enthusiasm. Nice work. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is big stuff that we are talking about doing. It's transforming the city in a way that is still very much in keeping with who we want to be as a city. Like, one of the things that makes me sad is all of the vacant property that we have. There's so much good use that we could be putting this to. So I love this. I support the idea of exploring at least the rezoning and potentially having housing there, in part because if, as I understand it, if we do that, it creates a pathway to us potentially not having to have such density in other parts of the city that are more dense and more impacted. I love the idea, or at least I love the idea and concept of becoming a biotech-friendly city. I, of course, am very curious about what that checklist